This means that the victim wasn't knocked off the bridge by being struck by a vehicle. Yes, both these facts relate to the victim. If I were to sum up the driver's account prior to the accident, the victim was... Right. The victim had already been collapsed on the road. And after he ran her over, the driver... Yes. He threw the victim over the bridge. Little guy, what's the FBI's opinion about this?
He's already admitted to killing her. Why would he lie about that?
Indeed. His account coincides with the evidence I had found as well.
Huh? What evidence?
Well, if she had been standing when she was hit by the truck, the fractures to her bones would have indicated a strong impact from one certain direction. In this case, nothing of that sort was observed.
I see. What about the shattered skull, then?
The skull fractures are consistent with a strong impact to the top of the head. It would be unnatural for it to have been due to a car accident. Considering what happened to the victim, it can be deduced that something else caused that fracture. That is... That was careless. Concentrate. Yes. If she was unconscious when she fell from the bridge, the fracture due to an impact to the top of the skull is understandable.
I see. You're right, that does make more sense.
Yes. However, that raises questions about the victim herself. Why in the world was this woman so far from home? And why would she be lying in the middle of a bridge in the mountains at that time of night?
That's a valid point. I guess there are still some mysteries left unsolved here.
Indeed. We'll have to continue investigating in more detail.
Dr. Kimishima, we were able to look into the parents' injuries.
Good job. What did you find?
Yes, there were records that the parents had been going to a hospital, like you said. Let's see, it looks like they'd started being frequent visitors to the hospital 2 months ago.
How many times is frequent?
Oh, we didn't check every detail, but it was several times, ending about a month ago. The hospital staff seemed worried since many of the injuries seemed to be signs of abuse.
Did they tell the doctors who had been physically assaulting them?
No, they didn't. However, some of their injuries were quite severe. The mother seemed to have suffered some visual impediments due to a wound on her eye.
I see. Further investigation is required to determine who had been abusing them. Hey, little guy. I need you to analyze this medication.
Yes, of course. Did you find it in the victim's room?
That's right. It looks like it's prescribed medication. But what is it?
Who knows? It's definitely no common over-the-counter drug. I'd suspect that this would have to be prescribed by a doctor before someone can buy it.
I see, that makes sense. This could mean that the victim had attended a hospital. Was the victim suffering from some kind of injury or disease? If our analysis continues, we may find something out. Hey, little guy, I need you to analyze something.
Sure, send it over to me. I see. There's blood on it. The DNA matches the victim as well. Also, this metal fitting seems warped. Could it be worn out from use?
That doesn't seem to be the case. Look again at the bloodstain. It's not on the ornament. It's on the needle part that goes through the ear. If there's blood there that matches the victim, then the earring was...
If that's the case, the damage to the fitting makes sense. But what could happen that would cause an earring to be torn off?
I don't know yet. Still, there must be some connection to everything else here. I think this information may lead us to some more concrete evidence. True. Both of these facts relate to the earrings. The victim was discovered with only one of these earrings, and the other one was discovered in her room with her blood on it. Normally, if someone had an earring torn off to the point that it caused bleeding, they would have to realize that something was wrong. Still, the victim was on a bridge 8 kilometers away from her home. What this shows is that that's right. She didn't leave this room by her own will. She was probably forced out of here by someone else. That could explain how one of the earrings was left in the room. But why would whoever abducted her leave her on a bridge 8 kilometers away? I feel like there's a lot of truth that remains to be uncovered.
Dr. Kimishima, the results of the analysis on the corpse have come back.
Good. Did they find anything new?
It looks that way. The report indicates that the fractures to the femurs and skull, they were all posthumous injuries.
So these wounds were inflicted after she died?
Yes, that's what the report says.
Can you do something for me, little guy? I need this bone analyzed in detail.
Oh, sure. What do you mean by in detail, though?
I just need to know if this fracture occurred before or after death.
This must have happened while she was still alive. Take a look at this area here. You can see where it started healing.
Great. I thought as much. All right, thank you. There's no knowing yet if this has anything to do with this case, but I do know now that this fracture occurred while she was still alive. The victim's femurs were fractured in the accident with the truck. Her skull was shattered when her body was dropped from the bridge. We've confirmed that both those injuries occurred after death. From those facts, it's clear that when the victim was on the bridge, yes, even if she hadn't been run over by the truck, she was already dead. That means that the driver was telling the truth in his interrogation.
Then does that mean that she was kidnapped from her room, murdered, and then had her corpse dumped on that bridge?
I don't know that just yet. We'll need to investigate a little more.
Oh, by the way, Dr. Kimishima, about that prescription.
Did you find something out?
Yes, we found which hospital the victim had been going to and requested her charts. It says Veronica had been to the hospital a month prior to her death. Her symptoms were migraines, visual and auditory hallucinations, mood swings, and aggression. also says she was vomiting blood and had convulsions, along with hemoptysis.
Convulsions? Vomiting blood?
Yes, that's what it says. The doctors urged her to have more detailed examinations, but it seems that she had no intention of listening to them. In the end, she left the hospital and whatever disease she had went unconfirmed.
If only her doctor had forced her to be hospitalized.
That's just how things are these days. People really get concerned about strangers.
Let's continue with the investigation. Sorry for being emotional just now. In any case, we don't know what disease she had. Judging from her symptoms, it was something severe.
I agree. If we find anything out, I'll be sure to let you know immediately.
You do that. It may give us another hint in solving this case. Yes, we can put these two facts together. According to the chart from the hospital, the victim's condition caused her to vomit blood. If she had continued to vomit blood after her hospital visit, that would explain the bloodstains on her clothing. Yes. Thus, these bloodstains were caused by the blood that she had vomited. True, these two do share a common link. The victim's hospital records say she'd been at the hospital since... Yes, 2 months ago. For the month before her death, she'd been treated at the hospital. Now, the parents' hospital records say they'd been visiting the hospital since... Yes, they also started visiting the hospital 2 months ago. Veronica was going for migraines, hallucinations, mood swings, and vomiting blood. And her parents were going after suffering frequent injuries. A month before the victim was found dead, the parents suddenly stopped having these injuries. An unpleasant coincidence, to be sure. I hope there's no connection here. Yes, these seem to be related. According to the charts, the victim's symptoms were migraines, hallucinations, mood swings, vomiting blood, hemoptysis, and perhaps most importantly, yes, sudden aggressive behavior. That is, she was acting out violently. Her conditions must have worsened severely a month before her death. That is, her violent tendencies would have increased in frequency and severity. In addition to that is the fracture in Veronica's finger. This is the only injury she had while alive. That's a common injury when people hit things with their fists. On the other hand, the parents' injuries seemed like signs of abuse. If I were to consider all these points, those wounds were... Right. The hospital records of both the victim and her parents, they show that Veronica had been physically abusing her parents. We can deduce the victim's physical state from this information. First, the pathological changes. There's no knowing what disease she had. However, if this discoloration of the bones shows the existence of a focus,